All right, we're about to go on a digital hunt, and our target is something that by its very nature is designed to be completely invisible, the actual physical cables that make up North Korea's internet backbone. It is a fascinating puzzle, and the story of how it was pieced together is just an amazing example of modern open-source detective work.
It really all boils down to this one simple but incredibly complicated question. We tend to think of the internet as this wireless thing, right? Something that just exists in the cloud. But in reality, it's a massive network of physical cables running under our feet and across oceans. So, where are North Korea's cables? How does data actually get in and out? That's the puzzle we're going to solve today.
Every great detective story needs to start with that one totally unexpected clue. And this one is a real gem. It wasn't found in some leaked spy document or anything like that. Nope, it was found in probably the most unlikely place you could imagine, a PowerPoint presentation that North Korea gave to the International Civil Aviation Organization. And buried in one of the slides was a map, and on that map, a single thin line labeled as a fiber-optic cable.
So, that one little line on the map, that was the spark. That's what started this entire investigation. It showed a fiber link running between the capital, Pyongyang, and a city called Odijin. And even though it was just a simple line, it was the first real, concrete piece of evidence that pointed to the physical layout of the country's hidden network.
Okay, now, before we go any further, there's a really crucial detail we have to understand. Most people inside North Korea, they don't use the global internet like we do. They use something called the Kwangmyung. It's basically a nationwide, totally sealed-off intranet. Think of it like a walled garden. The physical cables we're hunting for, they carry traffic for both this internal network and the very small, elite-only connection to the rest of the world. So, with that first clue in hand, the investigation moves on to the next phase. Hitting the digital pavement, so to speak. This means digging through literally everything, from old reports and satellite imagery to random tourist photos, just looking for any sign, any hint of these hidden cables on the ground.
And when you start looking back at the historical data, a really clear pattern starts to emerge. As far back as the mid-90s, fiber links are being put in the ground. And if you look at this timeline, you'll see a pretty distinct focus on the East Coast. This wasn't just random. It really suggests that a major infrastructure corridor has been developing along that specific route for decades, way before their modern internet connection was even a thing.
So, the first piece of modern physical evidence comes from photos taken right near the Friendship Bridge, which connects Russia and North Korea. And the most important clue here is actually what you don't see. There are no utility poles. But if you look really close at the ground next to the railway tracks, you can see these little markers and patches of disturbed earth. That is a classic sign that the cable is buried, running secretly right alongside the tracks as it crosses into the country. And the evidence just keeps building from there. As investigators scanned more and more photos taken along that main East Coast railway, the Pyongru line, they started finding more of these telltale signs. I mean, these unassuming junction boxes and utility conduits, they might look like nothing to most people, but they're exactly what you'd expect to see for a buried cable running right alongside the train tracks. They just keep popping up. And here's the key. These aren't just isolated clues. When you start layering all the different sets of data on top of each other, the picture becomes, well, pretty undeniable. The cell tower network, the main highway, and the Pyongyang Railway, they all follow the exact same path down the East Coast. They form a single major infrastructure corridor. It's all right there. All right, so with all of these physical clues assembled, everything from historical records to pictures of little junction boxes, it's finally time to connect all the dots and actually draw a map of what we think is the primary digital backbone of North Korea. And here it is. This is the result of all that digital detective work. The hypothesis is this. A primary fiber backbone runs from Pyongyang, cuts east to the coast at Wonsan, and then follows that established infrastructure corridor, the railway and the highway, all the way up to the Russian border. This single path lines up perfectly with every single piece of physical evidence we found. Now, this is a huge step forward, but it's still a hypothesis, right? It's based on physical clues. So the next question is a really big one. Can we find proof in the digital world? Can we actually test this map by analyzing the network traffic itself? Okay, let's switch gears. We're moving from analyzing photos to analyzing data. And the main tool we're going to use here is something called a ping. You can think of it like shouting into a canyon and timing the echo. By sending a tiny packet of data to a server and measuring exactly how long it takes to come back, we can get a really good sense of how far away that server is. And those little timings, they can tell us a whole lot about the physical journey the data is taking. So, North Korea has this tiny, tiny slice of the internet, just 1,024 IP addresses in total. And as you can see here, they've split them up in a very specific way. Some of those addresses can only be reached through their connection to China. Others can only be reached through Russia. This deliberate separation is the key that allows us to test our physical map. It's brilliant, really. And this right here is the smoking gun of the entire digital investigation. When you trace data going through China, there's this big jump in delay, about 50 milliseconds, the second it crosses the border. But when you send data through their Russian link, the jump is tiny, only about 4 milliseconds. This massive difference in latency or delay, well, that is the digital proof we were looking for. It tells a story. So what does this huge difference in latency actually mean? How does a few milliseconds connect back to our physical map and prove that our hypothesis is right? Well, let's break it down. Here's what that data is telling us. That big 50 millisecond delay coming from China means the data is taking a long physical trip once it gets inside the country, almost certainly all the way to the main servers in the capital, Pyongyang. But that tiny 4 millisecond delay from Russia means the complete opposite. The servers handling that traffic must be physically located right there, very close to the border. This not only confirms our physical map, it also reveals that the network isn't just one central hub. Now, it is really important to be clear, just as the original researcher was. A lot of this work relies on connecting dots and making some very educated assumptions. This quote is a great reminder that this is a brilliant piece of intelligence work, but it's not a leaked government document. It's all about building the most plausible case from the evidence that's available. And when you step back, that's really the big story here. This whole investigation just showcases the incredible power of open source intelligence. By combining these tiny, publicly available clues, everything from a PowerPoint slide to tourist photos and network tests, it is actually possible to build a surprisingly detailed picture of a highly secretive network. And all of this leaves us with one final lingering question. This is the map we can build from the outside, just by piecing together these faint signals and clues. But what other secrets does that network hold? What does this digital backbone and the society it connects truly look like from the inside?